Welcome back to our next episode of Meet the Pros. Today we have the pro, David Ghavitian, our residential real estate lawyer. And David is here today to explain to us what happens with a latent defect. This is one of the worries buyers have when they purchase a property. Of course, one of the worries that sellers have when they sell. And it's maybe a bit more common than we think. So Dave is going to help walk us through what is a latent defect and what do we do about it. So Dave, I'm going to leave it to you. What do we do about latent defects?
Hi, Paul. First of all, it's a pleasure seeing you, and thank you for having me on your interview here. For most people, the purchase of a home tends to be the biggest financial commitment of their lives. And because there's so much at stake, home buyers want to get it right from the beginning. One potential problem in the purchase of a home is that of hidden defects. Now, or latent defects. Now, the word latent suggests that the defect is either concealed or dormant, but it implies more than that. A latent defect is generally defined as the fault of the property that could not have been seen or discovered by someone reasonable when they were doing the inspection of their sale. Depending on the facts at hand, here's usually what we look for when we want to delve deeper in cases such as this. We want to see whether the defect was apparent or not at the time of the sale or was known to the buyer, whether the defect is due to normal wear and tear of the property, whether the defect results from misuse by the buyer when they were in possession of the property, and whether or not the deed of sale stipulates that the property was sold at a buyer's risk and with no legal warranty. Now, how can potential home buyers discover these before signing the deed on a house? It's a matter of getting a thorough inspection done by a certified expert and making sure that the declarations by the buyer reflect the reality concerning the property's condition. Now, obviously, because I'm a lawyer, a lot of people ask me what recourse does a home buyer have after the defect is found, after the purchase is finalized. Now, it depends on the severity of the defects and the costs related to mitigate these damages. It also depends on the personal situations of the affected buyers, as they may not be so inclined to live in a house where there's all this stuff happening, and it might affect the well-being of not only themselves and their families. It can go from asking for damages related to fixing what needs to be repaired, all the way for the sale to be canceled and with a full reimbursement.
All right, well, that's awesome. That's so basically what I'm hearing here is that the best way to protect yourself really in the beginning is to make sure that you get that building inspection. So you've done your due diligence and you've gone through the process at least to make sure that you know what you're getting yourself into.
Absolutely.
And then ultimately, if you do run into a problem afterwards, you at least have the backup to say, hey, I did what I could to protect myself. Now it's at the fault of the seller.
Yes, and the buyer needs to be patient from the very get-go, because one of their primordial legal obligations is to denounce the issue to the seller before any remedial work is done. Because if you do the work to fix the issue before giving the sellers the opportunity to review the latent defect, and if you don't do that, then you lose your rights forever, and you can't necessarily go after them afterwards. So it's important that you denounce the issue beforehand.
Right. So what I'm hearing here is that if you think you've come across a latent defect on your newly purchased home, the first thing that you should do is give you a call.
Absolutely.
Right on. That's some great advice. Most definitely, we want to make sure that we're protected. That's why we got the pros, and that's why we have David Ghavitian, our real estate lawyer here. Of course, if you have any questions about this subject or really anything when it comes to law or real estate law, please do get in touch with David Ghavitian. I'll leave all his information here with this video, so you'll be able to contact him. And I'm sure David would be happy to discuss with you your concerns. Awesome, Dave. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your expertise and your knowledge with us.
It was my pleasure, Paul.